Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Looks like it's just me tonight. Thought I was going to have Cameron, but... And apparently Mario's children are numerous and belligerent. Much like my own, but I ran mine around on sugar highs all day, so they're in bed. So, good evening. Here's what we're going to talk about tonight. Peter Boghossian. We've talked about this cat before. Boghossian is one of three scholars who participated in a beautiful, beautiful hoax to kind of, well, what they did, frankly, is they exposed the community of academic review as complete frauds. So I see Zach in there in the chat. How you doing, brother? Let me ask, did anybody who's watching now, did y'all see the show where we talked about the hoax papers? I hope you did. If you haven't seen it, I absolutely encourage you to go check it out. I'll try to find the link again and link those papers down below. I'm not going to go through all the papers again tonight, but I'm going to talk about kind of what happened here. And the reason I'm talking about this again now is because just recently, just in the last couple of days, we've learned that Peter Boghossian, I can't remember the other two names off the top of my head. I bet I have them here. I don't. Anyway, Peter Boghossian is one of three. They authored several hoax letters or hoax articles that they submitted to peer-reviewed academic journals. And here's the fun bit. They got several of them published. Several. Okay. Now, when I say hoaxes, okay, I lied. I'm going to pull it up. We're gonna look at them. I'll show you a few of them because they were just too damn funny. Boghossian hoax articles. Because these guys just nailed it. Damn, where did they? I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I just got slow on you for a minute here, but I actually had a completely different plan in place, and it kind of fell through at the last minute, I guess. Okay. I think I have a bird in my ceiling. Anyway, here's some of the articles. So I'm going to skip it. This is all the what did we do? Okay. A new American leader rises in ISIS. That's not one of theirs. Nicholas conclusions. Oh, I am sorry. I am woefully underprepared this time. I had this damn, I feel terrible to put y'all where I just have. Okay, I'm just going to have to wing it then. So among the hoax papers, there was one that asserted, yes, triple trolls. They're freaking amazing. So one of them asserted that they had studied rape culture in a dog park, and that in the course of that study, they had examined the genitalia of no less than 10,000 dogs. And they've pointed, of course, they've pointed out since the paper was put out, and since they've basically confessed to having perpetrated a hoax, they've pointed out, look, in any given dog park, and the claim is that they did the study in a single dog park over 12 months. There's a few people who frequent a dog park, generally, maybe a couple of hundred, and they all bring their same dog. And so, yeah, there may be 10,000 visits to the dog park in a month or 6 months, but there are not 10,000 unique dogs whose genitalia could be studied. They also said that they interviewed the dog owners and asked some questions about their sexual preferences and proclivities, and compared those to the incidences of dog rape. And, I mean, that's one of the articles. This article was published in I hate to use this word in this context, but a respected academic journal. I mean, it was an academic journal about feminism or gender studies or something. So to say it's respected academia, it's respected by idiots, but they do respect it. But this is this was the so-called affair on steroids. So for those of you that didn't see the episode where we did discuss this, the so-called affair was back in '96. Dr. Sokol submitted an article to a magazine called Social Text, an academic journal on postmodern studies. And let me see, a leading North American journal of cultural studies whose editorial collective includes such luminaries as Frederick Jameson and Andrew Ross. He wanted to see if they would publish, and I quote, an article liberally salted with nonsense if A, it sounded good, and B, it flattered the editor's ideological preconceptions. The article, here's the title of the article. You're just going to fucking love this. Transgressing the Boundaries Towards a Transformative Hermeneutics of Quantum Gravity. Okay, there's a lot of big words that, well, frankly, they intentionally mean nothing in the context that they're used. So but I mean, it was this complex madness about the arguing that basically you could interpret away gravity, and that you could do so under the quite reasonable presumptions that gravity is somehow that it was sexist or something. Transgressing the Boundaries proposed that quantum gravity has progressive political implications, and that the morphogenetic field could be a cutting-edge theory of quantum gravity. A morphogenetic field is a concept adapted by Sheldrake in a way that Sokol characterized in the affair's aftermath as bizarre New Age idea. And so I'm reading directly from the Wikipedia article on this right now. Not my favorite source, but it's a quick and convenient one. He wrote that the concept of an external world whose properties are independent of any individual human being was a dogma imposed by the long post-Enlightenment hegemony over the Western intellectual outlook. If that doesn't make sense to you, if it sounds nonsensical and absurd, that's because it was crafted precisely in order to be so. Okay, so I've waxed on about Sokol's work long enough, but that was back mid '90s, and basically proved and gave the absolute lie to the idea that rigorous standards are applied to academic texts at a bare minimum within the world of postmodernist critique and criticism. Fast forward to 2017. Several articles are published in several different academic journals. There was one that claimed that we should have fat bodybuilders, and it literally made the claim. It was. I will link the episode where we went through these, because it's shocking, many of the things that they claimed and that were accepted as brilliant academia, as just brilliant research, treated as if they were legitimate scholarly works. So of the three, it's Boghossian who's interesting at the moment, because he's the only one that currently works for a college. He's at Portland University, and he's facing some serious backlash right now. He's being accused of ethics violations. The institutional review board is saying that he didn't get the permission that he needed, and they're basing that on the claim that what they have done is actually a case study that involved human subjects, and so there needed to be an ethical board review of the proposed project to guarantee the safety of the subjects involved. So let's not pick any bones there. If a project like this had been brought to the IRB, then the institution and its institutional review board would have struck it down, precisely because you have to understand, these are the review board is made up of precisely the sorts of people who want to protect this golden calf, because it's part of their livelihood. Okay, you're talking about people who sell their articles to publications whose essentially. So, okay, a big thing to understand about scholarly works published in academic journals is that their primary source of revenue, these academic journals, is not in sales and subscriptions to readers. Okay, individuals that are actively involved in doing work in academic circles, professional philosophers studying medieval philosophy, professional gender studies nutbags, professionally gender studying, and somehow not being biologists. Okay. I just had a little aneurysm there from that sentence. I apologize. These academic papers, they make the bulk of their money by selling subscriptions to institutions. Basically, the library buys the subscription and keeps it on the shelf so that the professors can refer the students to the publications for the purpose of writing papers for the classes. And many of those papers, as you start talking about graduate students, even latter term baccalaureate students that have not yet been aborted, that's where the academic papers make their money. and they stay in that business by paying professors to write articles. So of course the IRB would shut that shit down. Now, here's the question you have to ask. If it is so very clear, because Boghossian and his crew, they published articles in several different academic journals, in several different branches of what they have referred to, and I will henceforth be calling grievance studies. So grievance studies, that's your African American studies, that's your gender studies, that's your women's studies, and anything where you take segregationist term and plug in the word studies. That's what they're talking about when they say grievance studies, because they are all exclusively the study of how to be a whatever supremacist. Gender studies is about being an anti-male feminist, a female supremacist, a gynocentrist, right? Women's studies is not functionally distinct from gender studies. No, that's not true. Gender studies includes the study and the participation of men who are pretending to be women for the purpose of establishing a grievance against men who are normal. So if the college, though, is going to punish him on this for exposing a serious, serious level of corruption within academia, then we need to read that. The world needs to read that as the Portland State University, essentially supporting and condoning that level of corruption. Because what they've proved is if you just sprinkle in enough left wing buzzwords and rattle off some pseudo intellectual jargon and make it sound like you know what you're talking about, then the review won't even bother to examine your evidence. Right? You can make wild claims like rape culture is perpetuated in dog parks, and even claim to have absurd evidence like we studied the genitals of 10,000 dogs over the course of 12 months who visited this dog park. And you don't even have to worry about whether or not they're going to ask you to produce the evidence. Really? 10,000 genitals? And 3 or 4 respected academicians, respected scholars let that shit slide by? Well, guys, I don't know what to do with that. But here's what I do know. In a case like this, what we have is, and make no mistake, the Boghossian and his guys, I mean, they're not the far left radical nut jobs that Ocasio-Cortez and her ilk are, but these are generally left leaning scholars who I think have just swallowed a pretty jagged red pill. But for the university, for the academy to condone and protect these journals while they're clearly involved in some pretty active corruption is terrifying. You should certainly be worried about your freedom of speech. And you should certainly be worried about the state of academia in the United States. I'm going to cut it short tonight because, like I said, I had a plan and my other guy fell out on me. So, I'm not trying to dump on him or throw him under the bus. I've just thrown him under the bus a little bit. But my point is, I don't want to do. We're going to talk about Elizabeth Warren and Ocasio-Cortez and the upcoming presidential campaigns. I don't want to do that without Cameron because we've already discussed some stuff. So I'll try to bring him in either later this week or next week. We'll get another show up. Until then, thanks for watching. Mostly you, Zach. You're the man. And I'll see you next week. Good night.